Welcome to Victory Quilts. I'm Eleanor Burns. This is a series about the 1940s. It was a time of empty sugar bowls and victory gardens. It was a time when housewives took jobs outside the home, filling positions for husbands turned soldiers. Well, today's blocks are broken sugar bowl and contrary wife. They share the same technique of triangle pieced squares, and they're very easy. The sign of the times was rationing of more than 20 essential items. The first item to be rationed nationwide was sugar. Well, sugar had to be purchased with ration coupons. The women lined up at their local schools where teachers issued ration books, and once you were out of coupons, you could not purchase any more. Women had to be very inventive in the kitchen and just figure out recipes without sugar to please their family's sweet tooth. Just a great recipe book. Karo syrup, honey, and molasses were substitutes. Well, even though there's no granulated sugar in this tasty cake, there's plenty of natural sugar from dried apricots, dates, and raisins. Ooh, we can still enjoy this recipe today. Very good. Can you imagine cake without coffee? Well, that was another rationed item. And then there were shoes. You know, many folks remember putting cardboard in their shoes just so they would last a little longer. New tires were as valuable as gold. They were patched and repatched. Next came meat and meatless dinners. Fat, butter, and cheese went to the boys. Well, if you were lucky, you lived on a farm. Metal appliances and gasoline were rationed. Peggy Martinella's grandmother got these dishes as a premium at a gas station. You know, supplies were all going to the troops. Not only did housewives spend time budgeting and planning meals with inevitable shortages, 18 million women went to work for the first time in history, filling jobs that husbands once filled. You know, the folks all worked together for victory. Let's work together and make broken sugar bowl and contrary wife. Louis Jordan wrote a song in the 1940s about the ration blues, and this is how it starts. It goes, baby, 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 what's wrong with Uncle Sam? He's cut down on my sugar, now he's messing with my ham. I got the ration blues, blue as I can be. Oh, me, I've got those ration blues. I can just imagine without sugar, that's a lot of blues. Well, this is the block that we're doing, and the Kansas City Star published this pattern in 1942. Now, when it's straight like this, it's a little hard to see a broken sugar bowl. But if you put it on point, then I think you can start to see in the medium color that bowl right in the middle. Well, there are two different units in this. There are the half square triangles in the red and the blue. There's 4 of them. And then there are 3 4-patch across the center. The very middle one is the medium and the dark. And the 2 end ones actually have a background piece in there. I guess that's where the handle would be. So let's start with the half square triangles. For the 12-inch block, they are 5-inch by 10-inch rectangles of these 2 different colors, the blue and the red, right sides together, and we're just going to draw a dividing line at 5 inches. So just grab a marker, mark down like this, and then so we can get 4, you draw a diagonal line up and down. I like to use my 9.5-inch square up so I can do that as quickly as I can. And now all we have to do is sew on the diagonal lines. Now, I've shown you this technique before, but this is just a good review. Just to see, you're going to stitch 1/4 inch away, have your needle down so that whenever you stop, then you can go ahead and stop, so you pivot right on that center line. I'm just about there. Okay, down, turn, and start down the other side. You know, it's interesting. They had to use the food coupons for everything. But when you went to a restaurant, you didn't need to use food coupons. That's really great. Okay, so up the other side. And it didn't matter how many people you had in your family. Everybody got the same amount of ration coupons. But it seemed fair to the government. Okay, now let's just go ahead, take this piece. I did 1/4 inch on both sides. Just go back and cut exactly the same as you marked, right down through the center, and then put your ruler on point so you can cut up and down. Now, for the 12 inch, these pieces are squared up to 4.5 inches. So you just find the 4.5 inch dash line on the 6.5 inch triangle square up ruler. Center it right on there so you can just trim off on both sides. And then just turn it around, cut off those tips on both sides, scrape up these trimmings, and you're done. Now you're going to do 4 of these, all exactly alike. So just put the dark on the top, set the seam, open, and press your seam towards the triangle, the dark triangle. I told you it was easy, huh? So we're going to get 4 all alike. I'm just going to set these aside. I'll get those later. Now I have all 4 half square triangles done. The 4 patch come from strips. They are 2.5 inches wide. I have the background and the red at 6 inch length. And I have the medium blue, and the red at 12.5 inch length. So just take and flip the background and the medium, right sides together. They're 2.5 inch strips, so you're just going to still do that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, drop your presser foot on there and line that up. You know, it is interesting. There is one food that the government gave to everybody. Every child under 5 years old got as much as cod liver oil as they could stand. Well, that's a great food, cod liver oil, but it kept the kids healthy. Lots of vitamin A. All right. That's it. Now I put the background and the medium on top so that we could set the seam with both of the light colors on the top, and then just open and press right into it. This way we're setting this up so seams lock together. All right. We are flying here. So now all we have to do is cut these into 2.5 inch sections. And actually you can layer cut if you want. How about we'll just stagger them a little bit. I do like to use this ruler because it goes really quick and nice and straight. I'm going to line up the 0 right across the bottom here. I have a little bit to the left of 0 to trim off. I'm going to put my cutter right in 0. Hold my ruler down and cut. And actually, what I did was just trim right through there. And then you go to 2.5 and go to 5. See, with this ruler, you don't need to pick up and move each time. You just cut right along there. And you can see how quickly it's done. So now we have 2 patches that we have to make like this. Let's just turn one. 2 are just like that, and then one of them, the very center, looks like this. And we're just going to sew those together, and once we're done with that, we have background squares. These are 4.5 inches square, and so we'll just place all of the units into the block like that. So it's pretty easy to do. No rash and blues, just get your block done. Our next block is Contrary Wife. Now, it makes everybody laugh when they hear the name of the block, Contrary Wife. But it wasn't that the women were contrary. But prior to the war, the women held jobs that were either low paying or held little appeal to male workers. And then once the men went off to war, the shortage of labor occurred in much of the higher paying jobs. Well, women saw the wonderful opportunity for them to excel financially and gain more independence and freedom. And that's not a bad thing. You know, most of the women really were devoted to their husbands. Just think about the song from the Andrews Sisters. Don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me, till I come marching home. But you know, in World War II, that little slang thing, the Dear John letter, originated. That breaks my heart. I just can't imagine that. And meanwhile, the husbands were all writing home about snafu. SNAFU, situation normal, all fouled up. So there were all kinds of things going on in World War II. Well, I want to show you the 6-inch block for the Contrary Wife. The techniques are very similar as in the broken sugar bowl. So we're just going to kind of rush right through this. But I'll tell you the difference between the 6-inch and the 12-inch. Now, when we did broken sugar bowl, we started out with these two pieces right sides together that were 5 by 10. We drew the diagonal line, cut it, squared it up to 4.5 inches. When I'm doing 4.5-inch patches for the 12.5-inch block, then you're going to do 3 by 6 for the 6-inch block. You'll get those measurements all figured out. But at 3 by 6, you draw the dividing line at 3 inches, and then just go ahead like we did on the other one and cut it on the diagonal. Now these patches for the 6-inch finished block are squared up to 2.5 inches. So you just find the 2.5-inch line right there, line it up on the stitches, trim off the extra. The little ones are just so cute. And then all you do, it's just like we were doing on the other block, set the seam, open, and press. I think this one is so much easier than the sugar bowl, but take a look then. Once you get one of those done, you're going to have all 4 done from that unit. You've got 2.5-inch blue in the corners like this, and then we're just going to run the other way with 2.5-inch of 3 reds, 2.5-inch reds. Pretty like that. And then these just go in almost like a ladder, right in along like this. Let me get this in place here and here. Is that easy? And then you just go ahead and sew them across and down the other way. And this is what it looks like from the wrong side. The last seams, you just press away from the center. Everything is all matched right here. It's just perfect. Well, as a block, maybe it's not that interesting, but you should see how cute it is when you use the Contrary Wife as connecting blocks. My sister Patty made this charming wall hanging called Sky Rockets in Flight. She made 12 6-inch Contrary Wife blocks to create a chain. See, I told you, Contrary Wife makes a great connecting block. Well, the 3 2.5-inch squares in each block look wonderful in several different roses. It adds a lot of interest. Well, the Contrary Wife blocks frame a 12-inch skyrocket block in the very center. Well, the star points are made by drawing diagonal line on a 2-inch square. You sew on the line, trim, and then you just fold it out. It's great. Well, Patty is the queen of fussy cuts. So, of course, she cut fussy cut squares for the corners. And then those rockets are just templates, and those are sewn to the center of the star. Well, the 4 corners of the quilt are also 6-inch skyrockets with more fussy cuts. And I just love those large triangle piece squares surrounding the contrary wife blocks. Well, they're made with a large scale print sewn together with a stripe in the first round and plaids in the second round. Well, Patty started out with two 7-inch squares placed right sides together. She drew a diagonal line, sewed a 1/4 inch from both sides of the line, and then she squared them up to 6.5 inches. And then the pink triangles really make that 12-inch skyrocket stand out. Well, the border print is magnificent. That's the piece of fabric that she cut up for her fussy cuts. Well, for the grand finish, Patty used a narrow piping between her border and striped binding. It's just so beautiful. You know, Broken Sugar Bowl is also a great block to use as a chain. Well, Diane Knight made this patriotic quilt with 8 12-inch sugar bowl blocks plus 7 stars and stripes blocks. You know, it's just a stand up and salute kind of quilt. She used plaids for the sugar bowl and stars for the corners of her blocks. And then in the borders, star quilting makes it even more festive. This is just such a fun quilt. Well, Diane has been one of my block party students for years. This year, my block party had a USO party to celebrate the completion of our victory quilts. Well, wouldn't you know that Diane dressed up like Rosie the Riveter. Well, that was my costume too, but we had a great time together. Couldn't believe it. She had her hair in pin curls, and she had on the brightest red lipstick. I just love Diane. Well, at our USO party, we had Bob Hope visit us, and Bob Hope did some great stand-up jokes, and the Andrews sisters performed Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. Well, actually it was Cindy, Andrew, and Becky who worked for Quiltin' a Day, but they did a great job. You know, Patty did the Victory Polka with me. Oh, a great time was had by all. Well, while husbands were enjoying USO shows for a bit of distraction from war, women workers spent their evenings and their spare time mending and restyling clothes, repairing appliances, and knitting sweaters. Well, one favorite evening activity was stitching on stamped, ready-to-embroider linens. Now, this is a tinted pillow cover in a patriotic theme. It's just wonderful. It's a Marine Boy Cupie. It's a pillow top, and the person add a crocheted edge around the outside. You just slip the pillow right in the back. It's wonderful. Now, I found this one in my mom's hope chest. I love it. Home Sweet Home. Now, Bogart Needlecraft Company sold the stamped piece of work. You know, when I look at it, I see what a beautiful job my mother did. Her stitches are perfect. You know, she taught me to sew, and I am grateful for that. But I never did get to teach her to quilt. My mom was just like the thousands of other women. She stayed at home, waiting for my father to return. She kept the home fires burning while working for victory. All of our quilt blocks are finished. Yay! Now I think it's time we make an adorable apron. Well, this looks just like the tablecloths of the 1940s, but it is actually a piece of new fabric. Just wonderful tucks along the apron part, and then a bib with the flowers centered, a little bit of swag and stars across the bib. It's just so much fun and easy to do. Well, I took my piece of fabric. I've already folded it in force, and all of the selvage edges are lined up along the left edge. So with one cut, I placed my ruler 1 inch in. I'm just going to trim all those selvage edges and just get rid of them. Now the ties on this apron are 3.5 inches wide. So move in 3.5 inches and cut again. They're nice long ties, and they actually have great length to make a bow. There we are. That is the ties. We'll sit them right over here. And everything that is left here is for the apron and the bib. Now I'm just going to open it up this way, fold it one more time all over again, and take my square up ruler and line it up at 9 inches. I'm cutting that bib right now. Let's see. We want to get that little flower centered right in the middle. So take and cut 9 inches across this way. This is for the bottom part of our apron. I'm going to show you all of this in just a minute. And then you open this up and you find the center. That is the center fold. And now cut at 10.5 inches. And that's pretty much the cutting for this whole apron. We're just going to take this piece and fold it in. It gets seamed right down through the back. This gets seamed, and then I'm just going to lay it in place so I can show you how it all looks. Well, this is the bib. This is where the seam was, right here. We did a little curve in, so it looks really cute across the top. This is my tie that I've already inserted before I stitched right along there. So now I just want to trim off that tie. Just angle those corners and turn this right side out. The seam goes down the back, and this little necktie comes right out at the top. Very, very cute. Very, very cute. It just needs to be poked out just a little bit. The ties have already been hemmed on both sides, turned under and hemmed, and this is actually the waistband. And what we're going to do is just take this bib, put it right in here in the middle of the waistband, put a second piece on top, stitch the whole way around the outside edge, and then when we turn it, then we can just insert the apron. Well, there's little tucks all along there. The edges are hemmed. It's very, very cute. It's adorable. Well, now it's time to cook up a storm. I want to share this antique quilt with you. The block is a partial broken sugar bowl block with 2 triangle piece squares and 2 4-pads. Well, I just love the way the quilt maker set the blocks in diagonal rows. And when she didn't have enough matching fabric, she just put in similar fabrics. No stress, no dashing off to the quilt shop. You know how the saying goes, use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. You know, even the borders aren't the same on all 4 sides. I just had the top recently long quilted. I just love it. So much fun. Well, this Hoosier is perfect for making up that sugarless cake recipe. It must have been purchased in March of 1924 because the calendar was in it when I purchased it. You know, there's no sugar in the sugar jar, but you just take a bag of sugar and put it in the top, and then you dispense it out the bottom. How convenient. You know, the flour bin is just as much fun. You put the flour in here, it just goes right through, and then you just sift it right out the bottom. I love the porcelain top because it's easy for cleaning up. You know, the recipe for the sugarless cake is easy enough to remember. You're just going to have to remember this. Okay, chop up a cup each of apricots, dried apricots. You need to have dates, dried dates. Ooh, and the last ingredient here is the raisins. Wow, that is already enough sugar. Stir it up with a 1/2 cup of water. Ooh, this is looking good already. And if you must, nuts would just add the right touch. This is actually my own mother's nut chopper. I just love it, you know, but I don't think I have enough patience to chop a 1/2 cup of nuts. And then you have additional ingredients. You have 1 cup of flour. Going to add that along with 2 eggs that have been beaten up. Oh, this is great. You need to have a teaspoon of soda and also a teaspoon of vanilla. And the last ingredient that we're going to add right now is 1 stick of melted butter. Just stick it in there. We just softened it slightly in the microwave. Oh, modern techniques here. Well, you're going to stir it up good. Whoa. I am already tasting this. And then for the last step, all you need to do is bake it in a 9-inch by 13-inch grease baking pan at 350 degrees for 25 minutes. Serve your cake with some Cool Whip and coffee, and then get to your quilting. Enjoy.